When we listen to a song that's just come out, there's a good chance the beat was made months, if not years ago. The top producers are always switching up their sound, and in this video, we're gonna see exactly what they're working on for 2025 and what we can learn from it. Now, I'm sure you guys have all seen those day in the life videos on Lucid Monday. They give a unique insight into what producers are working on, and I've been studying them, compiling a list of tips, tricks, and techniques to show in this video. Let's start with OZ. He showed the beat for Sicko Mode and also his more recent work, I Know. Then he began working on a new beat. OZ works with a lot of samples, so let's make something dark and fast. The sample in the video uses a bell, so I use the same thing as well as a pad. Then I layered in some brighter synth sounds used as accents. After that, OZ gave out a gem that I've not seen anyone do before.
I put like the Memphis acapella over the sample that I made. I did like a quick drums. I recorded all together, filtered, and then over the top, I did like whole new drum.
So basically, he puts a simple drum pattern on the sample. He adds in a 3/6 Mafia style acapella. He bounces it, filters it, and uses it like a sample. Next, we need to make the real beat. Before we do, let's listen to another trick OZ mentioned in the video.
If an old beat never get placed, you can just like use the drums and switch the samples.
So I thought, let's use this idea in our own way. I changed the melody of the bell and added in a piano. Finally, let's add some drums. I began with a snare and hi-hat. Then we have some laser perks. And finally, one thing I noticed from the video was that OZ's beat was very kick driven. So I did something similar, leaving us with this. Producer number 2 is Wondagurl. She actually played a lot of beats, and I noticed that she's really trying to blend genres. It has that classic Wondagurl sound, but mixes in what sounds like some drum and bass influences. She also said this in the interview.
Where do you want to take the next step for Wondagurl?
Yeah, I guess just like really showing my range.
So let's start our first beat with this in mind. I began with a very ambient chord progression using pads from my Flow State Analog Lab bank. Sounds with texture like this help to build a soundscape. And listen to how Wondagurl describes her production.
Because I love creating like stories through music.
Telling stories definitely starts with the sounds you choose, and texture will go a long way. Next, I noticed an interesting theme across most of the beats that she played: vocal chops. However, she used them in a different way, especially with how they're processed. The use of delays makes the vocals almost sound out of time, but again, this helps to create a unique soundscape. I found a few vocal accents and processed them with different delays, making sure they weren't synced to tempo. This is a bit overpowering, so I reversed and filtered them. For one last melodic element, I took inspiration from this beat. That melody is insane. The simple lead adds so much feeling, so I added something similar to our beat. Now, going back to what I said about Wondagurl blending genres, it really comes from her drums. The first beat I showed had these really fast hats, which gave a sort of drum and bass bounce. I did something similar by clicking in a pattern and layering it with a drum and bass hi-hat loop. Notice the spaces I left. Wondagurl does this a lot. The silence leaves room for her intricate percussion, so that's what we added next. For me, over the years, my favorite thing about a Wondagurl beat is the kick. You need a hard sample, I usually boost it, and then get creative with the rolls and panning. To tie it all together, we have two basses. And finally, we have Playboi Carti's favorite producer, Cardo. We all know he's been making these insanely hard beats for Carti, and it's interesting to hear him describe the sound.
I'm a big Michael Myers fan, I'm a Halloween fan, I'm a fanatic.
This makes perfect sense and is a great place to start our beat. I began with these two textural pads from Omnisphere. Next, I actually listened to the Halloween Ends soundtrack. A bunch of tracks have these bright, eerie synth melodies, so I added something similar. Now for these sounds, I actually use Citrus and Massive, two very old plugins that I never really use anymore. I use them all because of Cardo making this beat in the video.
And I made that on Citrus. Citrus, bro.
It's interesting that coming into 2025, he's using sounds that he started his career with.
I ain't used Citrus in so long. Last time I used Citrus, I made like Mesmerize type shit.
So maybe go back to an old plugin that you don't use anymore and see what you can make. Finally, I wanted to add a couple of heavy metal inspired sounds, which is obviously a huge inspiration for Carti and Cardo.
My man got me a switch. We don't give a fuck about luck.
I added these two distorted guitars. For the drums, Cardo tends to do this slightly off snare pattern with some hi-hats. And I finished it off with a bouncy 808. I think the overall message of this video is to always try new things. When you hear a song and the beat sounds crazy, that producer is probably already onto a new wave. That's what makes these three producers so great. And it's why after years at the top of the game, they're still there.